Welcome back to the SPL. That first set still kind of has me in a tizzy here a little bit. A big win by Renegades up against Radiance. And based on what we just saw from that breakdown, Aggro, not bad. We got plenty to talk about for this next set that's coming up here as well. Obey up against Rival. We're probably looking at Weekend's last performance here in this weekend with Obey. So it's a big one here for these guys.
Yeah, I think that he might also be playing on Sunday. I think
he is. Yep.
Because they haven't made their official roster change quite yet there for Obey. But this should be the last week where we see Weekend there in the jungle. But from my understanding, this tweet was gas, by the way, by Rival. Even Weekend gave it some props. Very, very funny. But I don't know, because Obey during this time, they've likely been scrimming with different junglers to try and figure out who they're going to play with, right? So
Sure.
Have they been able to find time to scrim with Weekend? And so a doubleheader is poorly timed for Obey Alliance right now. I think they kind of got the short end of the stick, at least in that regard, because in my mind, they should be spending all their time trying to find the optimal replacement, which doesn't leave a whole lot of time to practice with their current jungler.
Yeah, I'm not ready to have a whole bunch of sympathy, though. They're in this spot because up until now, they've had the easiest schedule, right? They haven't had a doubleheader yet, what a lot of other teams have, and they still have not been able to find an individual game win yet. So I don't know. You won't hear any violin playing from me, but I get the point that you're making, which is that this is a tough spot that they are now in. You know, they kind of made that bed, though, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's not an accident, right? Like, all these
Sure.
things don't kind of happen in this way just by chance, but it does put them in an even tougher spot when they were going to be in a tough spot regardless, because as you mentioned, they haven't found an individual game win yet, and they're up against Rival, who has found a lot of not just game wins, but set wins as well.
It's a tough thing for Obey because not a lot has looked great for this roster on paper, and I think that's why, Aggro, they are looking to make this change, right? They know they need something to come in to try and give them some kind of stimulus, something to move this team a shot in the arm, perhaps, so they can try and find some success going forward. That's why we sat down to talk with Shook to see where it is that this team is thinking of going next here with that next spot. This is the owner, Shook, talking here in an interview about what they want to do with the jungler.
Shook, the owner of Obey Alliance, joining us here today. Shook, thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk about what everyone's talking about in the SPL right now, which is the vacancy in your jungle slot. Weekend saying that he's going to step down. You guys looking for a replacement jungler. Before we get into what type of player you want in that role, what was your reaction when you were told that Weekend was going to be stepping down?
I believe it was initially shock. Weekend has been a competitor for us for a couple of years now, and this kind of came out of the blue. I think that the losses have been weighing on him, and so I think that with his successful streaming career, I think he decided he wanted to move in a different direction. After shock, went to concern, and then just making sure he was good, making sure he was in a good mental state, given the stuff that's going on nowadays, and then started moving forward with the team, trying to figure out exactly where we wanted to move forward with in the future.
How did that conversation go with the team? I mean, obviously Weekend has been thought of as a leader in basically every team he goes to. Do you think that this changes your team dynamic in a way, or do you think that you have the leaders in place already?
I think that what we have struggled with as a team has to develop a team identity. I think a lot of us a lot of our peers in this environment look at us as more of a stream team than a competitive team because our teamwork has needed a lot of work. So I think that as a team dynamic, I think we need to work on our teamwork and to build up the respect from our peers in the environment, so that way people aren't calling us in game on our mistakes quite as much.
Well, hopefully you guys will be able to do that with the addition of a new jungler, and a fresh face might reinvigorate the squad. What are some of the qualities you're looking for in a jungler? What do you think the team needs out of its roamer?
Well, right now with our current dynamic as it's set up, I think our biggest struggle is teamwork and communication. I think that the games have been beating down on people. We haven't got a win yet. And so I believe teamwork and communication the biggest thing. I think that we need a really strong front line, like those front three as they're going into team fights. I think that needs to be strengthened. So we definitely need somebody that's got a very strong personality and willing to push forward and take team fights. So
as you've talked about, I mean, obviously this isn't the start that you or your team wanted for the beginning of the season. And now with this change in the jungle for one of your veteran leaders, how does this affect your expectations for the team in this first split?
well, I believe everybody's expectation is always to win. So we're going to stick with that. We're going to continue forward trying to win. I think that small sub goals in the meantime is improving our teamwork and then moving forward from there. Long-term win. We want to try to struggle and get back up and not be in last place as we are right now.
Well, hopefully we can get that going pretty soon here, Shook. Good luck on the jungler search and everything. And thanks for taking the time today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Aggro. You have a good one.
Well, I think Shook's right that Obey are struggling to try and develop an identity, and perhaps this new jungler can be a remedy. The only problem is they're not going to have this new mystery jungler here today, Aggro. So how do they resolve some of those issues that I think Shook correctly pointed out here today in this next match, especially when they're not just playing anyone, they're playing Team Rival, one of the best teams, if not the best team in the league.
Yeah, let me try and find my secret notebook that has everything. No, that's a grocery list. I don't know. I don't know exactly what Obey's supposed to do. Because
if you did, you should go on the line with Shook.
Yeah, exactly. He should be in contact with me right away. There is no magic answer. And frankly, if we call a spade, if you're Obey and you spent all last week likely scrimming with whoever you're trying to decide what your replacement's going to be, and now it's, okay, we can hop in where it's time for our SPL games, it's up against Rival, who's probably the best team in the league right now. You hold this. You just walk in and you try your best and you see what you can do, and you play with house money, and you understand that you don't have a whole lot on the line for this game. Obey's focus is not on winning this week. Their focus is winning phase 2 towards the end of phase 1 and getting better as a team. In the short term, you're going to make sacrifices, and this week might be one of them.
It might be, but it's a lot harder to say than we just saw what Renegades did to Radiance, right? I mean, it's not the same situation. Sure. Harder, I think, for Obey to win here. But Renegade showing it's certainly possible in these matches where you are not favored. But Rival looking great coming into this set. And for one of many of the reasons is that fineokay continues to look excellent for this squad here out of the Soul. And it is fineokay in particular that we sat down to talk with for this interview before this match.
All right, guys, I'm here with fineokay solo laner for Team Rival, and we're talking about their matchup against Obey here today. And all right, fineokay, I think it's time to kind of put to bed this whole, well, Rival lost to United, but they've been winning recently. I mean, I think it's time to focus in on the hot streak you guys have been on, and only the wins here recently. And more recently, I mean, let's be honest, it was a pretty easy set for you guys over Radiance. We already talked a bit post-game to CaptainTwig. Did it surprise you at all how that Radiance set went for you guys?
I don't think it. I mean, it was. I think the only thing that was surprising about it was that it was like really easy. Like it seemed like 2 stomp games. I said in my pregame that I thought they were a little overrated. My pregame with like our Team Rival
right.
video, and like I do think that their skill cap, like their skill ceiling or whatever, with those players is very, very, very high and all that. But I've always kind of been a hater of like super teams and stuff like that. So I thought that they were a little overrated at the time. And I think every team like that always has some flaws that you can kind of show if you're a good enough team. So I think we did that.
Yeah, agreed. And I think maybe it's a tough question, but realistically, in what could have maybe been a close to flawless set for you guys against Radiance, is there anything that you maybe take away from a set like that you want to work on moving forward?
More of the same, I guess. You can
say no.
yeah. I mean, even everyone always says like losing is learning, and you can learn more from losing, which is true. But you can also learn a lot from winning and how people react to like for example, I'm sure everybody in the league watched that set because everyone probably thought Radiance was the best. They watched us stomp them, and they were like, "Wow, like maybe we should, implement some of the things they're doing and stuff like that." But also for our own sake, like. We kind of just want to perfect the things that we think allow us to win games, especially allow us to win games like that. If we can keep doing stuff that cleanly and maybe even, more cleanly against other teams, then we'll be unstoppable.
And you're looking close to unstoppable now. And Obey, is the team that has to face you guys today. Quick thoughts, maybe what are some of the lane matchups that maybe stand out to you in this matchup where you guys are going to try to take advantage?
Pretty much every lane. I think
Right.
it kind of depends on the draft. I think a lot of times, like people, like outsiders watching SPL, they think that like teams go into a set like targeting out specific people or like really trying to play around certain people. But it really comes down to the drafts and what you get. Like if you get a really good matchup in one lane, you're going to play off that matchup a little bit more and stuff like that. So it kind of just depends on how the drafts go. And I'm not exactly sure how Obey is going to draft, just because they're kind of, mixing things up every week just because they haven't been doing too well. But yeah, well, I think, we'll win.
Yeah, well, that was the next question, but confidence obviously high from you guys off a Radiance win last week going up against Obey this week. fineokay, much appreciate it. Thanks for talking to me today, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Love getting a chance to hear from fineokay. He inevitably landed where I think we all were, that fineokay and Rival are very favored here. But he did also hit on one other thing, Aggro, which is that Obey are unpredictable right now. I don't know exactly how they're going to attack right now. It's going to be hard to prep for this team.
And I think that they should be playing as relaxed as ever, because who cares? They're making a roster change already. They probably haven't done a whole lot of practice with the 5 players this week. So what do you guys feel like playing? I don't care. Pick it. Like, it's one of those situations. And I think that teams often play a lot better when they don't have that pressure on their shoulders of, we're losing all the time. We've got to find a win. This loss streak is really weighing on us. More now than ever, no one is expecting Obey to win this game. So why not just have fun? And maybe they'll play better because of it.
Maybe there's a chance they could catch off guard this really talented Rival roster. Remember, I mean, this team for Obey, right? I mean, it's Wlfy, Inbowned, obviously Weekend here on this roster as well. They have had some struggles up until now, but they're not a team that lacks in self-confidence, I don't think. I think that there's anyone that could shake off this kind of start and rebuild in the middle of the season, it is this roster, right? These are guys that believe in themselves, they believe in each other. I think this Obey roster really can make it work, and I'm not 100% counting out this set either. Remember, Rival came into this season with some weaknesses. I thought that they didn't look perfect in terms of their 3v3 play, because obviously they had some changes there between mid and jungle. There are some areas where you can exploit an overly aggressive PBM as well. I'm not 100% writing them out yet.
Yeah, I think that Rival has not looked unbeatable. They got beat week 1. Since then, they might be looking kind of unbeatable, but it's possible to beat these guys, and I think
theoretically,
yes, and Obey has to try and hold on to the early game, because that's where Rival has really looked uncontested so far and how strong they have been. They hit the gas early, do Rival. It's mid, it's left side, it's wherever, and it's worth noting, by the way, that CaptainTwig, highest player damage in the league so far through the first few weeks. So
yeah, he's got an extra ability over everyone else.
Yes, the jump in, right? Yeah, that one does damage for him. No one else wants to do it all the time. It's making it work, though, man. I mean, he's getting in there, and he's getting dubs.
No, but you're exactly right. And I think that, we've memed Twig enough, but I want to make sure it is said that he has clearly found a way to still play his play style, but in a way that's a lot more effective. Twig has not stopped jumping in. I think he's just picking better spots for it. My man is going to be aggressive. He's going to play sort of instinctual. When he thinks that something is good for his team, he'll take it. And I think that Rival's found a way to harness that into making it really good for this team. Twig has now become a really scary mid laner to face off against.
Completely agree, and he'll play something weird. Like his god pool, if it's anything like it was in the jungle, is going to be pretty vast, and it's going to have a lot of picks that make you scratch your head and are weird and difficult to play against. And I think that's always fun to watch when a guy comes to mid lane or any other new role and is willing to play a bunch of different things. I wouldn't be surprised to see Twig maybe do a little bit of extra experimentation this week.
Well, we won't be seeing any Yamoji here in this game like Aurora got to play so many times. But we might get to see the Camazots and Rival or hovering that. That could do plenty of work, whether that is in the hands of fineokay over in the solo lane, or if they want to take that into the jungle instead for Sam perhaps to pilot. They could take that wherever they want to. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised they get some aggressive for PBM as well, maybe a Hercules. They got a lot of options here on the side of Rival with the way these bans win.
Yeah, Herc is still open. I mean, you look at what Sam's been playing, a lot of Hunbats and a lot of Thanatos. Those are both still open. Wouldn't be too surprised to see Obey take Hunbats off the board right now. That's been a pretty heavy priority pick for a lot of different junglers, Weekend included. No surprise to see him go for it right away. But now I think you immediately have to be wary of Sam's Willix that he's been playing pretty often so far this year as a pretty traditional counter pick to Hunbats, who of course has the Somersault.
I was going to say Merlin is still available as well, so you got to prioritize him. It looks like that will be the call. Get that over to Wlfy then for Obey, alongside the Unbots. And that is 2 scary top picks for Obey, right? I mean, that's a ton of control from the Pheno Evil, and Merlin good at every stage of the game, it feels like. But Rival answer back with Discordia. And remember, they already have the unpeelable Camazotz waiting for him in the wings.
And you've got that Discordia passive on the Camazotz. Bless up, because you're in trouble. You're not feeling that damage, and you're not living through that damage. And he's got so much healing on top of that. Would love to see Rival go for something for PBM. I was going to say Hercules, but Horus works largely the same. Still a warrior, still going to bring a little bit more damage than traditional Guardians, and still has phenomenal setup and great pressure in that 2v2 in the long lane. And it transitions a little bit better into the late game. So Horus, I think, is the perfect pick here for Rival. It does mean that Obey get a chance to ban out some junglers. I think Thanatos and Awilix should be off the board instantly, but that means you're giving PandaCat something that he wants. Could be the Cupid that he's played a little bit. I think you've got some options there for PCat, but if I'm Obey, I'm banning junglers because Sam has looked unstoppable as of late.
That's got to be the call from Obey. I'm thinking, too, especially when you already have one boss, not as if they're banned away from their own pool either. So they can feel pretty comfortable just trying to limit what Rival are going to grab. But instead, they're banning Kuzumbo. And it does rely on them on being sold that Camazotz is going to be going to the solo lane, right? Which is what it sounds like we are here. So if they're not convinced of that and they want to take this Kuzumbo off the board, then that makes some sense.
I suppose, but man, how many Camazotz jungle games have we seen?
Not
0
many.
At the SPL? Pretty sure it's 0. How many times has he been played solo every time? Every time? Maybe Bobby was threatening to play Kuzumbo, and they were like, no, please, dude, do not. I'm banning it. I'm getting it out of here. So you can't play that. The Hebo ban as well, I mean, that's not really something that PandaCat, I think, is likely to play. Not a god that we've seen Sam pilot a whole lot, necessarily. Maybe that they're calling Rival's bluff, that Rival won't go for physical. But with Rival's playstyle, 4 physical is not an option. They jam it so early that you just don't have a chance to build enough physical protection for it to matter. I think that Obey is a little bit too focused on Rival not wanting to go for physical here, and may have baited themselves a bit in picks and bans because of it.
Well, I don't know if Inbound had considered this or not, but there's a lot of extra pressure now on this Fafnir pick after Awesome Jake played so well in it in set 1. We know how good it can look. Hopefully he can live up to that one as they lock that in. Obviously should be able to help accelerate some of that attack speed for the Jingwei too, but it looks like the Amuzen Ka being hovered here for Rival for PandaCat to take over into the long lane. We don't see a lot of him much anymore.
No, we don't, but it's early pressure, right? And that's what Rival wants in every single lane. It just gives you pressure and kill potential, which are 2 things that Rival always wants in their draft. I think it's a good pick for you over there. Wukong looks like it'll be Warrior Wukong jungle would be my guess, and Camazotz solo. Sam's a fan of these Warrior jungles. I think he played Wukong jungle against E United. It did not look particularly good there, but with Rival finding their stride, maybe it's he's found a way to make it work.
And then it's Jormungandr that's going to round it out here for Obey. That was another thing to note, that Rival were still banning away solo laners like the Tyr, like the King Arthur. So now the Jormungandr gets to come over there, build Jade Emperors against potentially Camazotz and Wukong, and probably not be under very much duress at all. Yeah,
I'm a little surprised that they leave it because Obey's been willing to first pick this Jorm. Clearly they think that Ducky's okay to just, sit over there and make sure that he doesn't end up really affecting the map with rotations, and he just wants to stay afloat in this lane, which is kind of what Jorm's really there to do more often than not. So we'll see if Obey can handle the storm here, the 4 physical.
And it's a storm, all right. A fighty draft from Rival going into game number 1.
Thanks so much, Finch and Aggro, on the, illusion of a desk. Joining me on the cast is going to be the one and only Mifflin alongside me here. And it's definitely a weird situation that's not the casters. That is Doug, though, and Doug's cool. We like Duck. But yeah, the one thing I will say is this is a weird situation, Mifflin, right? Like, I've never in the history of the Pro League known about a player leaving a team and yet still having to play games for the course of a weekend. So it's definitely an interesting one of how Obey handled this here today. No one's really expecting much out of them, but they still need to look for improvements.
This could go one of two ways in my mind for Obey. Either Weekend decides that he really wants to get that last swan song in, leave the SPL on a high note, and go out on a dub, or he could do what Aggro was kind of hinting at and just kind of fully troll out these sets, have a good time. Yeah. It's very unlikely that he's been scrimmed with, so maybe he's not really expecting too much here. Get some sick stream content, crazy YouTube title. I can see it right now. Weekend, all caps. 0-16 in the SPL, first time ever. Check it out, you know? It could go either way.
At the start of the season, I expected that to be Jake's title of his YouTube video, but that's not been the case for him at all. I don't really see that happening, though, as you look at the pressure that so far Rival have already got in this dual lane. Ryan was just talking about that on the desk, about the pressure Amuz and Cobb will bring, especially against the likes of a Jing Wei. So far, so good there. However, pressure elsewhere isn't always the same. I don't really feel Discordia has a ton of pressure up against the Merlin. I think, if anything, that kind of cancels each other out. We'll just see what we can see out of Obey here today. So far, so good to an extent, as they try and defend their buff over on this side. Hand of the Gods was utilized to secure it. Wowy secures at the end of the day, managed to pick it up, but it does cost him a couple of potions.
He's only got one health potion left. That's not going to be enough. Against Horus and AMC, that's infinite kill potential. If you get locked down by Mike, immediately you're going to get slowed out. AMC's got some of the highest burst potential in the early game of any hunter. But you really got to focus on this mid lane matchup, because that's where Obey are looking to win it out, simply because Discordia really doesn't have a ton of pressure. Sam on this Wukong isn't going to be able to get involved nearly as much as Weekend will be on this bot. So that's where I'm looking for Obey to play it out.
Good aggression again in the dual lane. Just want to point out as well, if I do sound a little underwater, I apologize. I've been practicing my scuba diving skills during the quarantine in my bathtub for the most part, so bear with me. It will hopefully get corrected as time goes on. Right-hand side, just a bit of aggression out from Sam for Soccer there on this Sun Wukong in the jungle, which, as Aggro mentioned, we've seen it in the jungle once before. What does it really bring, though, Mifflin, from the jungle aspect? Is it really just a little bit more tankiness from it being a warrior?
It is an additional frontliner as well as an initiation tool. If you have Hun bots, that means that he's going to be very easy to just dive into the enemy team, use that somersault cloud to get away if trouble comes his way, but you're not picking him just to dominate.
And now on the left-hand side, more pressure. PolarBearMike does get poked down pretty healthily, or handily, I should say. Still has one potion to get away and one in inventory, and obviously a bit of sustain from that surge will keep him topped up as well. A lot of people underestimate that Horus surge, that little heal that comes into play. As long as he can keep his mana pool up enough, it should be okay for the time being, as Panda just continuing to pressure. And no sign of a rotation yet from Obey in the jungle. It is only 3 minutes in, so it's a little bit awkward to try and get the rotations in this early on.
It certainly is. Weekend's going to be looking to farm up until he hits level 5. Probably not even rotate in just yet anyway, just because dual lane's getting pressured out so hard. It's going to open up rotations for both teams. If Rival looks for the counter engage, that's going to be a caught out monkey. Hun bots, rather. There's 2 monkeys in this game.
Well, this monkey's going to get caught out in the jungle as he tries to get that red buff. It's stripped away there, given over to CaptainTwig. Sam going to pressure the back camps and try and force Weekend further behind if possible, focused on just reducing the amount of experience they're getting in this early game. Already you can see Twig now at level 5, so has that apple online early. And that could be a bit of a better situation to be in, especially against the Hun Bats, who generally would like to try and get those level 5 Fear No Evil ganks up and available early on.
Worth pointing out that Twig already has pressure in the lane. He's getting the aggressive rotation path despite playing Discordia, who's going to have worse clear than Wlfy does on the Merlin. Sam hasn't really had to put out that much pressure at all. We've seen him only move into a lane once, and he didn't even hit his stun. It's going to be on Obey to really try and abuse the one lane where they can, which is middle. You're not going to be able to abuse solo lane because Ducky's playing Jormungandr, one of the most passive gods, especially considering he's playing into fineokay's Camazotz. That's not like a standard Camazotz. That's advanced Camazotz. He's going to have pressure out there. He's going to have the sustain. Oh, Ducky does have a slight level lead right now, but he's not going to be able to leverage it nearly as much as a warrior would have been able to. And I think that's a slight failing on Obey's part. If you have Ducky on your team, he's one of the most consistent players there. Why are you putting him on these passive gods every single time? It's a question to me.
Blinking from Mike, looking for Wowy, stunned in place. Wowy doesn't beads though, tries to walk away, uses the knock up to agility back to safety. Good little use of abilities there from Wowy, not really panicking, and keeping hold of those beads, so important. Just making sure you can prevent some CC like that Stinger from AMC. Because if that connects, you are crippled and you can't really use many escapes there, especially when you're not level 5. Sam, though, on the right-hand side, will secure the blue buff, as Weekend was looking for a bit of a steal there if possible, but not over-aggressing onto it. 5 minutes in, though, and I think the real talk here, Mifflin, is like, what is Obey looking for? We heard from Shook a little bit mentioning, but hold that thought. Wlfy caught in a rough position, has to beads away from the stun as the red buff is invaded again. Obey are just looking to try and, tread water to an extent, find small victories, and Mike might be one of those. He does manage to ult away. He trades out there with Inbound on that Fafnir.
Obey's looking to pick up a shot caller. That's the #1 thing, and that plays into what's happening right now. No first blood has come just yet, but already Rivals dominating the enemy jungle. They're stealing this red buff on cooldown. They're already 1,000 gold up simply because they're playing the map better. Right now, Obey just hasn't found their footing literally anywhere besides out of the soul lane, and that's just because Ducky's able to free farm. Right now, the duo lane's been forced out because Rival drafted pure pressure. Mid lane's getting forced out because Weekend really just hasn't shown face at all, so Wlfy hasn't been able to move up. There's not a lot going on for Obey. They need to slow down this bleed, try and pick someone anywhere on the map, and get control of their own buffs again.
Yeah, it's a good point. Their dual lane bound to struggle in the early game with the pressure they're going to have there. Solo lane neutralized to an extent with Ducky. But mid lane, like we were talking earlier, mid lane does have a bit more better wave pressure up against Discordia. But we've just seen a little bit more aggression out of Rival. And the invades on the red have really made an impact so far. Now at level 8 for CaptainTwig, whereas Wlfy should get closer to that. On that Merlin after this wave comes in. But Weekend's rotating to this right-hand side now. Same sort of pacing as Sam for Soccer's on this side as well. Looks like Weekend's going to hunt for some camps, but be a little bit too late to the party to find any available for now. Left-hand side, though, Oracles are contested between the two teams. Looked like it was a 1-for-1 split there, as there's no little glow around the goal for you.
Wlfy does a good job of closing up the level gap. I like now that Obey's really grouping up around that lane. They know that they can't play in the duo lane because Jingwei into AMC, Jingwei's not winning that fight, and they can't play around the soul lane because you're not going to be able to really leverage a Jormungandr. So now that we see them start to stack up in mid, they can look to pick out this Discordia. They can look and try and force some beads, especially considering how aggressive Twig's positioning is.
Well, here's an aggressive positioning for him. Is Mike going to use his ultimate to get him and Twig in there? The apple will pop and take down Wlfy. The red buff now looked at too, and that was what they were really after here, is getting that red buff on cooldown again. This time round, Obey were in position to start it up, but Rival just caught them napping. That global or semi-global ultimate from Horus really came up big there.
You say Obey was in position, but where was Weekend? He was farming back camps when his entire team's trying to defend a red buff, and immediately they fall for it. They're one man short. Rival is just abusing the jungle, and Weekend's kind of sitting on his thumbs for right now. He hasn't been involved whatsoever.
In credit where he's due, though, I mean, Weekend was just on the blue buff on the right-hand side trying to invade that for a moment or 2 seconds before that play was made. So he was trying to make something happen on the map. I don't want to give him too much of a disservice on that factor for now. There's now Weekend's around that gold buff area. Mid lane being pressured again is fineokay. Still holding his own in this lane, up against Ducky. Weaver, though, does hit Mike. Mike, no ultimate available, remember. Great kill. Inbound, though, getting credit for it. Probably not the one you would like to have that, really, but a kill's a kill at the end of the day, and Obey are on the board.
They are now only about 2,000 gold down. I feel like it was 1,000 just shortly ago. Getting the kill into Inbound, it's not the worst case scenario if he's going to want to play as aggressively as we've seen in the past. Putting him ahead means it's going to be a little bit harder to kill him in the early game. He can start rotating into mid, and Fafnir's damage with a couple levels behind him is going to be enough to really deal the kibosh to Twig. He won't be able to just free cast anymore. Instead, it looks like Twig's going to go ahead and continue free casting onto Inbound as he tries to return to base. But this is what Obey needs. They need to get proactive in the early game because they know that that's their strong suit. That's the one thing consistently that we've seen from Obey is that early game is where they make their plays. Right now, it's not looking too hot. They are 2,000 gold down, but it's not going to get any easier going forward, especially considering how much of a late game focused comp Rival has. They have this King protection comp in the double warrior front line. technically 3 warriors if we're going to count fineokay on this Camazotz with a build that we're likely to see from him.
Oh, we can try to get away from Sam and forces the blink out. That Tiger should have connected there. Hammer out from Inbound, though, slows down Twig's aggression at this red buff. And with Wowy now rotating over here too, the red buff for Obey should be secured in time to make sure Rival can't steal that away again. However, it does come at the cost of some minions for Wowy as he left that duo lane there, so that whole minion wave, I think he loses about 2 or 3 melee creeps. Hammer out from Inbound though, and Inbound being looked at as Twig. And of course, alongside him, Sam for Soccer is there to keep the pressure going. They're looking for an invade onto the purple, it feels like here, Rival. They are hunting as a pack.
Constant aggression onto the enemy jungle. This time, Weekend was in position. He was able to move in if that purple buff invade does go through for Rival. They think better of it, back off, get the oracles instead. But now that Weekend's used his jump, he might be under some duress instead. Rival going to go ahead and back up to their own buffs again. And this gold lead's only going to continue to grow. Obey's not moving into the enemy jungle. They're not quite able to defend their own. That's just constant farm for Team Rival. Not what you want, especially considering AMC's so immobile. Usually you would see a lot of jungle pressure towards PandaCat in this situation. But instead, he's pulling so far ahead off these invades that it's nearly a death sentence if he hits you with Stinger. Not really the most appetizing gank anymore.
CaptainTwig now level 12 in mid, going to head back to base and pick up his secondary relic now. First one to really hit that sort of area. We'll see what he ends up going for in terms of build. Looks like a soul gem coming up next for him. But on this right-hand side now, Ducky being chased down, forced to ult away. Was doing a bit of proxy farm in there. Maybe an opportunity for him to go back to base. And maybe be able to hold on to that teleport for Wlfy fights a little bit later on. We'll see what he makes do with that. Going back to Twig though, I mean, this unruly magic on the Discordia in mid lane too. I love the fact that he's willing to throw these abilities over the wall, try and steal a couple of camps. Look at this trap from Obey, set up around the Fury. The bad news is no one's really going to bite it at the moment.
No, there's no buffs coming up just yet except for red, but I like what they're doing. They're saying, if you want to invade us, we're going to put up our best front possible to try and stop that aggression, and they do a very good job of it. Now, Rival has to back up a little bit. Red buff is going to be spawning. They should be able to clear it out very easily. That might be their second red buff of the game, 12 minutes in, but now that they have that timer back, it's not going to be too hard for them to maintain it going forward.
That's true, sure. Obey got their red buff, but look at what happened on the right-hand side. That aggression that they showed onto Ducky, it resulted in them stripping away a blue buff. So again, Rival find a small win off the back of something across the map. They don't get red, they'll take the blue. Now maybe they go back towards red or even the gold Fury. Left-hand side might get aggressive around the purple. PandaCat alongside, blinking in onto Ducky. Ducky not going to beat again. Holds onto it as he's stunned in place. Purple buff is dropped down. And Rival walks straight towards the Gold Fury.
It's burning fast, but it looks like Obey is already on the front end of it. They know that it's going to happen. Weekend can find the blink engage at any moment.
Oh no, he had to somersault away, so he can't blink and engage now. Forced back again, but the Gold Fury's at half health, taking quite a while to be brought down by Rival. Rival a little bit concerned about the presence shown by Obey there. With everyone still having their ultimates available in that fight too, I think it was a better safe than sorry scenario. I think that was more Rival for me, Myth, waiting for Obey to make a mistake. Just there was no mistake to be made.
Yeah, they didn't move in too far. Take a peek at Ducky's build. He goes for the lifesteal boost, but he already has the Jade Emperors online. He already has the Stone of Binding. On this 4-Fizz team, right now, this might be Obey's best fight.
Great call as well, especially with Ducky coming in for this Gold Fury attack. PolarBearMike is here, coming around his Sam for Soccer. But it's going to be Obey taking the Gold Fury, and immediately they all walk away. Good objective play there from Obey. We were talking about the gold differential being up to 2k, close enough at certain points in this game. Well, that stems the bleed a little bit. It's still in Rival's favor there.
About 1,200 in their favor to be exact, but take a peek at the XP across the board. About 3,000 in favor of Rival. That's a level on the jungler. That's a level on your mid laner. That's a level on your hunter. All your carries are pulling ahead. But so far, power to him. Obey's able to keep their more tertiary roles. The supports are about nearly even. That's going to be huge going forward. But if Mike continues to find these To The Sky ultimates to engage on these enemy buffs, what is Inbound going to be able to do to recover it? That Dragon Form's going to get him killed if he transforms in front of AMC. The cripple will come out instantly. Any sort of cripple from Twig will also put Fafnir in the dirt. There's not a lot that Inbound can do at this point in the game to get proactive.
Just keeping an eye on Mike and Sam, who look like they're hunting for Wowy on this left-hand side. Good news is, though, they do have it warded, and the pings went down from Inbound to give the warning there, too. But Inbound trying to rotate in to see what's going on. Does find out that the purple buff has been stolen in the jungle. The red buff was also stripped away on this left-hand side from Rival 2 moments ago, given over to Sam. And on that right-hand side, well, the blue was invaded by fineokay, but Ducky did manage to defend for the time being. It's a low-kill game so far at 1-1. But I guess with the compositions we're seeing here, it's kind of to be expected.
It is a low-kill game, but it hasn't been for lack of action. It's been constant engagements from Rival, constant counter engagements from Obey. It's just no one's really willing to step up too far, get picked out. I like this look from Obey so far. There's a lot more discipline than we've seen before. Usually at this point, they're a lot further down, but it seems like they've really refocused, trying to get themselves to this mid-game state, and then they want to group up around the Pyromancer maybe, or this Gold Fury on respawn, and get that again. They have fantastic team fight and objective burn potential. Fafnir, once he gets that Coerce online, can very easily buff the rest of his team, blow up an objective instantly. Wlfy on Merlin has some of the best objective burn in the game, and Weekend's got this huge AoE ultimate to disrupt a team fight, or just guarantee the fact that they get it, so no one can move in, they'll get feared off of the objective. Just confirm it yourselves that way. Obey's got a decent draft going forward, they just need to make sure that they don't fall too much further behind.
The IMC from PandaCat, though, swinging for 188 on an auto attack at this stage. Pretty brutal to deal with. The good news is it is a Jingwei on the other side that can quickly return back to base, but there is a pressure on that middle area too at the same team. But PandaCat with a 2-level lead, still going to box out with Wowy here, keep the pressure going. Red buff looks to be invaded by Rival again. Damage onto Inbound, but it was enough separation to give Weekend time to get that red buff. Ducky now making a rotation towards mid here. Not sure what they're really after. Maybe a pinch around that red buff area. Not really to be found so far. Maybe Twig still under pressure though. Is Wlfy going to blink over the wall? Inbound still giving chase too. Twig with a bit of a panic situation there. Will throw out the apple. A forced ultimate. Good little play from Obey. That doesn't really cost them too much. I say that, but then there's a full minion wave going into that tier 1 tower in right.
Ducky seemed to me like he was incredibly concerned about that red buff invade, but Weekend's able to confirm it for themselves. Forces the rotation. He doesn't lose out on too much. Only about 3 or 4 minions get lost to that tower. Now the speed buff, however, gets dropped maybe 2 minutes after how it would have been normally. So now Obey's jungle rotation is going to be desynced a little bit, which is both a blessing and a curse. It's less farm on the map that Weekend can clear, but it desyncs the red and speed.
Well, we're under a lot of pressure here, just trying to keep that tier 1 tower standing, but with Sam Fusaka showing up behind him. Good presence of mind for Wowy to recognize that and not get pinched from both angles. And the use of the ultimate defensively keeps this pressure going. And with no one rotating here, everyone's still mid. Wowy's still under pressure. The tier 2 is being whittled down quickly. Minions are still there, but PandaCat may have bitten off more than he can chew now. AMC can only fight. He can't run very well. Those wings are a little bit lackluster. PolarBearMike into the fray, though, as Sam falls down. Great play from Obey that's costing them pretty big here for Rival. Sure, they get a tier 1 tower, but they do lose 3 lives. However, a tier 1 in mid lane kind of balances that one out. I don't think it's that bad from a Rival then, with Obey getting those kills.
Rival do drop 3 for 0 there, but that tier 2 tower in the duo lane, that's 1 auto attack from dropping. That's no longer a safe area for Jingwei to stand. Wowie's going to have constant aggression from the jungler and no safety to fall back to.
Ducky getting aggressive in mid, but under a lot of pressure. Wowy a little bit further back now. Remember, no ultimate available for him or his beads, so his position's got to be good and fine. Okay, maybe sensing death here. He's going to zoom on in with a bat out of hell and pick himself up a kill after his first real rotation of the game. Not only that, might as well strip a red buff too. Rival continue to grow their lead. Obey did try and answer back with a tier 1 tower on the left-hand side to even things up. I mean, so far, though, Obey haven't played this terribly in my eyes. They've kind of allowed Rival to make mistakes and punish them for it. The problem is that can they get to the late game where their composition does shine pretty well? Fafnir and Jingwei, 2 to speak of for sure, and then play around those objectives a little bit more. Bit of a split difference though, Myth. Gold Fury for Pyro, or Oni Fury for Pyro. Think you'd rather have the Oni, though.
No, yeah, Oni Fury way better here. It's going to put constant pressure on these lanes that are already under duress. The tier 1 in solo is about to fall. The tier 2 in duo is about to fall. You do get the Pyromancer for yourself, which strips it away from Rival, and I like the call, just noting the fact that Obey really don't have a fighting chance on that Gold Fury, especially considering the positioning from the team. going forward, it's really on Obey to continue playing reactive. They've already given up the majority of the map pressure. Even take a peek at the wards, looks like Obey is getting a little bit more defensive with theirs. They're kind of taking a page out of Sanguine's book, just play for that absolute late game, but their draft doesn't necessarily reflect that.
That's true. I mean, I will say I like Wowy's build I'm seeing here is Ducky's still under pressure this right-hand side. They're committing quite a lot for him. We'll get the tier 1 tower. Rotation was attempted by Inbound, but slowed down by fineokay. Ducky, though, didn't really panic there under the circumstances. A lot of physicals, obviously, so that defensive build he's got, focused on physical protections, is keeping him well topped up for the time being. But that build, again, I want to say about Jingwei here for Wowy. Going for the crit again. This composition that Rival are running, they've not gone very tanky here. Even, you know, the Kamazots, the Sun Wukong, they've both gone for damage. It means they're susceptible to a bit of crit that could come back to haunt.
There's not many tanky targets on the side of Rival, but I don't think they're too concerned about it simply because they have a fantastic dive comp. Yeah, Wowy's going to deal a lot of damage, but he's going to have fineokay running him down on this Kamazots. He's going to have Sam running him down on this Sun Wukong. They have plenty of ways to find themselves in the backline, as well as To the Skies and Horus means that really nowhere on the map is safe. All of a sudden, you could just have 5 members of Rival standing in front of you, and what are you going to do about it if you're Obey? Drop Fear No Evil, and then probably use it to disengage on the back end. Ducky really doesn't have a ton of damage to follow through on these fights. Wlfy's having a hard time finding his damage as well. Now it's Inbound under some duress.
5 on 5 on this left-hand side starting to break out, though. It looks like Rival really want to hunt down this tier 2 tower. It is on its last leg, though, and everybody going to be over here. Looks like Obey do want to try and defend, however. Inbound lost a majority of its health already. Does have his ultimate available, but Sustain's going to take a while to really come through. That poke could really limit the options that Obey have on defense. Ducky being whittled down in the jungle at the moment as the minion wave now coming through. Apple thrown out and connects with Inbound. Inbound actually used the ultimate there too, so he's going to be completely out of the fray with forced to recall. Obey still standing strong though. They want to try and defend this tier 2 without a front line really being there though. Ducky being zoned out from one side. It's too little too late. The tier 2 tower ends up falling down.
I mean, there was really not much leg for Obey to stand on there. I counted it. It was exactly 5 auto attacks from PandaCat.
Where we going?
Drop it. Looks like Fire Giant to me, right?
Is it Fire?
Fire Giant. It's Fire.
Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure they saw that zoom over the map. I'm sure Weaken's position should have given something away there. Weaken has the Fear No Evil available and the Blink too. Fire Giant getting low, throws in the monkey toss. Blink, overhand smash and Obey! Get the Fire Giant! But can they turn tail and get away? Wlfy came into the fray very late looking to steal and get kills. The core was different on 2 different members there. Wlfy does get out just about. Good shell from Inbound will keep him in tow. And Obey now trying to get away as quick as they can. Ducky's ultimate on cooldown here. I think Rival recognize that, and the Apple going to slow him down some more. The Worm could end up dying as Obey try to support him the best they can and force back Rival. Sustained from the Fire Giant, keeping him alive, but not alive long enough. Fire Giant for Ducky, not so bad. Great play from Weaken, but did Ducky need to die there? Did Obey need to all in commit? I don't know.
The engagement on the tail end was Wlfy saying, oh, hey, I got someone low. Ducky says, okay, let me go in as hard as I can with my ultimate. Unfortunately, they are still behind in gold and XP, so they weren't able to get quite enough damage online. But a 1 for Fire Giant trade for Obey is huge. They're only 3,000 gold down. There's plenty of towers left on the map that they could siege very easily. 2 tier 1s. They could very easily move into the duo lane tier 2 and then back up to gold free. Obey has Fire Giant on 4 members, and they don't have any actives, however, so it's going to be a little bit rough looking for any sort of siege, but they can very easily take these neutral objectives, very easily take these low-hanging fruit in the tier 1s, and immediately close up this entire gold lead. And their siege isn't weak. Inbound with the underhanded tactics and the coerce could very easily make it 3-4 auto attacks away from dropping any tower if he uses it on Wowy. Weaken's got fantastic engagement tools with Fear No Evil. Ducky's going to be able to shift his focus towards a backline peel type character and keep his team alive. Or he could just move in as hard as he wants, considering he's got so much physical defense and there's a 4 fizz stack from Rival. Obey are in the driver's seat, surprisingly.
In a sense, sure, but like, look at the map positioning. It looks like Obey playing relatively safe and pushed back here. With 4 members with the Fire Giant, you hate to see it. I'd like to see them try and contest his Fury a little bit more, if anything. Try and use the power play of the Fire Giant a little bit more potently. Instead, they're still on the back foot a little bit more than you'd like to see here. Instead, though, they're going to push on through middle area. They know the Fury already went down here. Pyromancer is available. Looks like they do want to try and take down a tier 2 in mid, potentially. The minions on the right and the left, however, are equal in the laning phase, so they're not really going to move too much. It's going to be a straight-up 5-on-5 for a tier 2 tower. And Rival may want to fight. They may just want to surrender it. It's kind of the option being theirs here.
Yeah, Rival doesn't need to defend it, but they absolutely can. Mike goes in a little bit early.
And Mike takes a ton of damage, but will survive. However, fineokay at the back got hold of Wlfy, and Wlfy needs some help sooner rather than later. Problem is, the Jingu Bang goes over walls and takes his life. fineokay is punished for his indiscretions, though, by Weaken. But then Ducky's ultimate wears off, and Twig picks up an easy pick up there. Sam, down from the cloud, looks towards Inbound over the wall. Twig with a nice trouble and strife. And PandaCat now following up too. That was a Fire Giant team from Obey that tried to siege a tier 2. It's Rival pushing their lead. Look at Sam again, lurking round corners. All the while, PandaCat stripping down the minions, looking to push the tier 2 with a couple of archers.
That was all indecision from Obey. We see them 5-stack group up in mid when Rival takes gold for you despite not having Fire Giant. We see them meander around the tower line in mid. Rival says, okay, you're not coming in, we'll come to you. They get the 2-for-1 trade. It really comes back to, at all points, this lack of decision-making that we've been so characteristic of Obey. They haven't got a true dedicated shot caller, it would seem, because there's so much indecision on their plays. Even in the team fight phase, we see there, they split off immediately. Ducky groups up on 3. The rest of Obey try and fall back into the jungle. Ducky dies immediately. Some people try and move back in to peel him out. Nothing really going Obey's way.
Lovely little apple out there from CaptainTwig to avoid that hammer, just that CC immunity keeping him alive and a little bit safer from where Wlfy was lurking in the wings there too, to try and follow up. However, I mean, there is boons to this Obey roster today. This is Rival, who just beat Radiance and are now being touted as the #1 team potentially in the league here, Rival. Every single one of these people, Myth, I mean, the core, to an extent, Weaken, Wlfy, and Inbound, have been involved in pretty much every kill so far. And honestly, Weaken 2-0-2, it's not a bad slash line at all.
That's especially good considering who it is. That's a little bit of a joke there. But this is absolutely Obey's best performance going forward. They haven't had this close of a game yet in the league, especially considering it's the 26-minute mark, which is generally where we see either Obey start to flounder or just straight up lose. I'm incredibly proud of the boys, and they're growing as a group. And a lot of it's due to the fact that they are playing a lot more passively in the early game. They seem to have really given up on that early game identity of being the aggressor, and instead are trying to shift their focus to late.
Well, I think some of that as well is because of the state of the situation, right? If Weaken's leaving, everyone on all the other rosters are like, well, this should be an easy W for whoever gets to take them on during this transitional period. And because of that, Obey's like, well, everyone's going to play aggressive against us. They're going to probably mess around, troll a little bit, maybe some different picks that we've not really seen come out as people want to experiment more. So if we just sit back and wait for them to make a couple of mistakes, maybe we can get our way back into a game. Maybe we can find ourselves a victory. Mike's in the sky, though, and I'm not sure they've seen it. Wowy forced to dash away, chase down, knocked again. Agility on cooldown, remember. Inbound's trying to deal with the backline, leaps back in to help out. Weaken gets a kill on fineokay. And now the damage onto PolarBearMike is causing problems. But some huge knock-ups come out there and cause some problems for Obey's backline. Inbound low, Weaken low. It's imps. On top of that, you've also got Wlfy, who's still trying to put out damage and run away. This is a good fight from Obey. They've scattered Rival a little bit. And they get a kit pick on Twig too, with the Fire Giant being up. Everybody in Obey starting to base here. It might be a call for a Fire Giant here, Myth, but they've got minions and they're looking for a tier 2 as well. Obey!
They've got plenty of time.
What's going on?
Yeah, Obey almost, I have to say that this is your script at this point. Obey are playing incredibly well. Weaken engages that fight by running away. Immediately, the second they notice that Horus is in the skies, the entirety of Obey start to back up towards their own solo side tower that no longer exists. And immediately, he lands. Weaken drops Fear No Evil. Obey turn, blow up one, and then continue their disengage. Rival wasn't willing to let it go, and more people fall because of it.
Well, Mike got there early to the Fire Giant to see if it was being done. Expected it would have been started up earlier than it actually was. The bad news is they just couldn't pinch him. 3-on-5 then at the Fire Giant. fineokay on the way on the Camazots too. Ducky on zone duty, but look at Sam for soccer. Sneaking round the back. Mike's going to the sky too. The steal could be attempted, but Obey will secure. The fight on the other hand, a different story. great knock-up side of Mike there to whittle down the health bars again. Sam got hold of Weaken and onto Wlfy. Double kill for the Sun Wukong jungle. Mike blinking in now with fineokay in support, and that's going to be a kill for fineokay onto Wowy. Yes, the Fire Giant goes the way of Obey, but they don't get to escape the clutches of Rival, who come back with only 4 members to decimate them. Through mid lane we go. Looks like a Phoenix attempt now, Myth.
Rival 5 strong, 30 seconds left on the Obey spawn. There's only 2 Guardians left as well. If they get through this Phoenix in a timely manner, they could go for the end.
When's it gonna pop? It doesn't pop at the end, it popped now! Goodbye, Ducky, we hardly knew you. Inbound has to jump away in his ultimate, but that could be the game off the back of that fight. What a crazy game 1.
That's so rough, a tearjerker for Obey, but still, that's signs of life. There's more games in this set. They can absolutely turn it around.
I mean, maybe, Myth, maybe. I think the biggest talking point there was steal away from the Fire Giant from Weaken was fantastic. Losing the pick soon after didn't help. But I don't think they did anything with that Fire Giant, man. Like, you're behind anyway. You gotta go balls to the wall. You gotta try and make something happen for yourself. The Fury was up. The Pyro was up. The call was go for a tier 2 in mid lane. Come on, boys. We can make better decisions than that. We're looking to just find a bit of a lead. At least push the lanes out first, right? I don't know. I'm frustrated, Myth. I just think I can see the things that Obey are trying to do. They're just not on the same page still.
That level of frustration almost marks you as an Obey fan there, Hindu, and I'm with you there. They were so much indecision. There was a lot of indecision. Not a single person?
No.
Goodness.
My wife, that's about it. I have to say that because she can hear me from the other room. That's the main thing. And I also roasted about cooking. Anyway, that's it from me and Myth. Let's get back to the casters for game 1 to review. Casters, desk, same thing.
Hindu is also a Finch fan, and since he's not on camera, there's nothing he can say about it to deny it. You know what else I'm sure Hindu Man's a big fan of? That's Maxonomic. Make sure that you all are picking up these chairs. It's $50 off with code SMITEMAX, so I really cannot think of a good reason not to, especially now during this quarantine when everyone is spending so much more time in their home chairs than they used to. It's a great time to take this opportunity to upgrade and make sure that you all are comfortable and have something that you can enjoy. Speaking of enjoying, Aggro, I have been enjoying these sets today. All of them have had some ups and downs and surprises. A big steal there from Weaken. How do you kick this guy right after that play he just made on that Fire Giant, and yet they still couldn't win it? What happened there towards the end on that last Fire Giant play when Rival just upset them?
Yeah, Rival just went in and they had a good veteran idea of what exactly they wanted to do in that fight. They didn't care if they got fire or not. They just knew that their job was to get in there and win the team fight. And I think that Obey was so focused on making sure they got the objective, they couldn't insulate themselves against the obvious aggression that was going to come from Rival on the back end. And think back to the team fight that had just happened prior on that right side lane. fineokay dives without ever getting his ult off. It's just a little bit disjointed from Rival. They're all on different targets. That fight is super spread. As soon as Obey condenses around that Fire Giant, Rival has a much easier time winning that team fight. Twig had another great game on this Discordia, 24k damage for him. He was very, very impressive on this pick. fineokay had some good moments, not using that all on the right-hand side was certainly not one of them. But overall, I think that Obey certainly looked much better than what we expected. But I do think it's fair to say that Rival also did not play the way we've come to expect them.
No, I mean, they were a little bit off the gas maybe than what you would normally say, but I do not want to take anything away from this Obey roster because this was a good game where they had a chance to absolutely win this one. That last play on the right-hand side when they were up and there were only, 2 members up from Rival still, I thought they were going to try and grab some Phoenix or something like that, but there were still some moments of indecisiveness, almost like they had not yet this year been in a position to end the game and they were looking around like, well, what do we do to end this one out? So it ends up hurting them, but obviously, like you heard Mifflin saying, this is a roster that will beat you if you give them a small window towards the end. This is something they can build on here for Obey. It's a little bit frustrating that they're going to, not have Weekend, and obviously there's going to be a rebuilding time when clearly they're close to being able to grab some gains.
It's really a bit impressive to see this team start to take the right steps, and Weekend deciding to step down obviously is going to be difficult for this team because he is a veteran for this squad, but you hope that they can continue to build up these young guys. Wlfy's not a new player to the SPL, but still has to try and get into that rhythm again. Inbound being the newest name. I mean, you hope that they can continue to work together as a 3v3 core and let their side lanes start to flourish a little bit more. This is not a team that's completely lost anymore, but they still haven't gotten to the promised land yet.
No, if anything, it's an argument for why they need that last extra piece, right? That can help them close out when they do get to these moments where they should be able to win games. And should is too strong of a word, but they certainly had the opportunity there. So that is game 1 down. We're ready now for the picks and bans for game number 2 here. Aggro Rival will be in that first pick spot yet again. And I wonder if we're going to be seeing a Sun Wukong jungle again. Despite the win, something makes me think we might be seeing something a little bit more traditional from Sam.
I will say that last team fight around Fire, Sam is able to do what not a lot of other junglers would have been able to do, which is buy a lot of time, get up into the air, found a really big dunk down off that somersault cloud. It wasn't completely ineffective, but I agree. You compare that Wukong jungle to like the Thanatos and the Awilix games and Susano games he's had recently, there is no comparison. Let's stick to the Assassin tab, my man.
But still, it is hard to deny that Obey had a great game here. Weekend looked good. Really, the whole squad looked better. And I wonder how much of that is their more reserved approach that we saw in that game number 1, right? They were not, forcing fights the way that we normally do. Inbound usually is jumping in, trying to force engagements. We didn't see that happening either. Even, whoever they end up landing on the jungle role, I'm kind of wondering if maybe we'll see a bit more of that more calculated pace from Obey.
Yeah, they let Rival come to them, and Rival made some mistakes that Obey absolutely punished perfectly, and that's really all you can ask them to do in situations like that. And I think that now if you're Obey, you're picking around things like that. If we don't have to be this super aggressive team, let's pick good counter-engage, let's pick good CC, and kind of just wait and wait and wait until Rival comes to us. Now, you can't wait too long because they were down over 1,000 gold before First Blood ever hit the map, and that's concerning for sure. You can't just give everything up, but clearly Rival was willing to do a little bit more than they should have been able to do, and Obey punished them for it nicely.
Well, early on in this picks and bans, things are looking fairly standard, I would say. Sobek and Ho Yi, pretty normal. Yamoja and Uller, pretty normal as well. The Raijin ban all makes a ton of sense to me. This is really much more about that sort of first pick and what we're going to be seeing here from Rival to start things off. Maybe it was the Camazotz in this spot last time for fineokay because Obey elected not to ban that out, and we normally see it banned, and it's open yet again, so Rival could potentially be heading right back into something like a Camazotz opener yet again.
Yeah, I like the idea of going Camazotz here again for fineokay. I think that amount of pressure on the solo side, basically guaranteed, is really big. I would be tempted to go Discordia, though, because of how well Twig just played it. I don't imagine Obey is going to let it through here. I think Wlfy is pretty likely to end up picking Discordia here, just try and keep it out of Twig's hands, but then you're giving him Merlin.
Yep.
I don't know. I just don't think that you want to give Twig a god like Discordia that scales so well into the late game, has really good CC, and aids Rival's primary win condition, which is just steamrolling you in the first 15 minutes of the game.
So Obey grabbed the Merlin right away, despite the great performance that Twig had on that Discordia last time. So maybe not too concerned by it. But what are they going to be pairing with this Merlin? They could still go for something aggressive in the jungle, like an Unbots. No reason not to. That's the pick we can use to make the big fire giant steal, right? So go right back to this Unbots again. So far, I think I'm okay with this draft from Obey. But I think if they're going to play the same pace, I kind of want a late-game insurance policy, like the way that an Aphrodite does, or like a Kali or something that when you make it to 30 minutes basically even, you are heavily favored.
Yeah, something like a hyper carry in the long lane would fit pretty well here. Something along the lines of a Xbalanque would be pretty good, helps your team fight, can be very difficult in the late game. You could go something like Kronos or something like that if you really want to lean super late. But you don't want to give up so much in the early game that you never get to that same point where they were in game number 1, right? You can't just assume you're going to get there against a team like Rival, especially with PBM making the one switch up, going from Horus to Hercules. Now this is on-demand pressure in the duo lane.
It absolutely is. Jingwei able to evade all that pressure, though. Clearly, Obey comfortable doing almost the exact opposite of what you're asking for. Someone who will be giving up a lot of that early game to get to a strong late game. But when you're not building crit, Jingwei can be, I don't know, not nearly as overwhelming as she used to be when she gets that late point. She's just a fine, safe hunter when it gets to that late game status there now. So Obey going with a fairly similar draft here, but into even more pressure now from Rival.
Yeah, I think that this is a good pick for Wowy. It just keeps him safe. It makes sure that he shouldn't be getting absolutely crushed over there in that long lane. But you are giving up purples for the most part now with this Hercules on the other side. I think that Obey should really be looking to make sure that whatever inbound picks here is going to be able to contest at least somehow. You know, get in there and be aggressive, at least enough to be defensive, if that makes sense. You have to be aggressive enough to make sure that you don't just get steamrolled, but also can't just be a god that could only go in. I think a god like Xingqian could be a good option, where you can play aggressively with this god, you can use it to defend your buffs, he's got good CC, but also has good escape options when needed.
Well, it's really the entirety of the front line that Obey are still waiting on at this point, right? That's why you see the King Arthur and the Jormungandr band. That's heads up, I think, from Rival. Clearly, Obey like to get that to Ducky, especially if they can sneak it in late in drafts. Take away that safe option, though they didn't really limit the support pool. Inbound should still be able to pick up basically whatever he wants.
Yeah, I'm thinking Xingqian. Fafnir is similar in the fact that he's got good escapability and solid CC. Just a little bit higher execution. I think Inbound played pretty well in that last Fafnir game, and this is the type of god that if you can get a lead, he's a win condition in and of itself, just because your Phoenix Sieges get so much better, your objective fights get so much better. I've got no problem with this Fafnir pick.
Well, it is a Xbalanque, but I don't know if you were talking about PandaCat earlier, but either way, that comes in for Team Rival. And Xbalanque is still plenty strong. I still think his ultimate's great, strong on multiple stages, especially once it gets that Transcendence online. He won't be worried about mana or anything like that. And a great team fighter, too. Xbalanque certainly fits in here and can get aggressive with this Hercules if they want to fight in lane. Then it'll be the Mercury, so 4 physical here again, but Rival aren't worried about it.
Really surprised at Noah Willix again here by Sam for Soccer, because it just feels like it's so good up against the Hunbats and the Fafnir. You got a knock up with Hercules there available to you. Just a little bit surprised that they don't want to lean a little bit more into the early game, especially with the Xbalanque already being your late game insurance policy, having this great carry in that long lane. I don't think the Rival was really lacking for late game too much. But now they've got a strong mid-game pick. I think Mercury really is at his strongest at that 3-item power spike around there, that where it feels like Mercury does the most work. So now Rival's got something good at every part of the game.
Well, it's game number 2. Obey looked better in game 1, but can they show us a W in this second match?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be that easy, honestly, from my point of view there, Finch. Is straight away, Mike getting aggressive in the jungle, looking to try and get the pressure going in this lane early is what you'd expect to see with this Hercules and Xbalanque. On the call with me is Mifflin once again. Duck's still there too for this one. By the way, that UI, look at that little thing at the top. Isn't it pretty, Miff? Isn't it pretty?
It looks good to me. It looks like it belongs in the game. So does PBM, finding the beads early off of Wowy.
Yeah, he does, and then the branching bowlers out from PandaCat too, just whittling down the health bar off Inbound's body as well. Man fight going on then. Purple is spawning soon. Mike and Panda are positioned to maybe still invade the purple early, but with this pressure already, they could already look to just like clear out this wave maybe, poke down the minions a little bit more, and Mike's doing a good job of zoning them away there, isn't he? Of getting towards that purple. Good driving strike to avoid that gust up, and that should be a lot of pressure now for this dual lane of Rival as they can look to dominate this one early.
This is 2 games in a row where Rival wouldn't allow Obey to even move into their purple buff. I liked what Mike's doing here. He keeps playing up in lane. He's going to let the X-Ball solo out his own purple buff, and that's going to make sure that Obey can't move into their own. It's going to be very hard for them to get past this wall that is PBM. So now, once they return to lanes, it's going to be a level 2 X-Ball, but instead it looks like Obey is going to go try.
Yeah, I was going to say, they've got a Hand of the Gods there on Inbound too, so it's not too bad on the invade. And I think Mike might have just realised that. He was trying to make them make a decision more than anything else. And Obey took their sweet time about it because they were kind of in an awkward spot to choose. I think they should have recognised that Hand of the Gods was available. But now both level 2 anyway in lane. Mike's a little bit further behind because of it, as Sam going to hit level 2 in the jungle. Play going on from Wlfy and Weaken though. They're looking to collapse onto this Mercury. And Mercury's trying to get back towards mid. Good little strife out from Twig. Return some damage. Bit of an even trade there between the two. I thought Sam's pathing there was a little bit risque for my liking, but it worked out okay.
It was certainly dangerous, but you have CaptainTwig in the wings able to stop all sorts of aggression, finds the two-man Strife into the two-man Unruly. Now Wlfy is going to be nearly out of potions, and Red Buff's going to be spawning pretty soon, as is Speed.
2 minutes. 2 minutes in the red, I'd say. I mean, it's a low cooldown, but we can take that trade there. Didn't work out very favorably at all. Pressure in this lane is in favor of Rival for the time being. Just nothing to really get off the back of it, especially with Sam being low on the Mana side. Mid lane then, the pressure's there. Sam will invade these Harpies on the right side as Weaken goes back to base. And as you were saying though, Speed Buff is spawning soon. I just not think Sam is in a position to really look to contest at this moment. We were talking about this myth just off air moments ago, that I think Rival definitely had a bit of fun in that game one, but I don't think they would have been happy with how close that really ended up being between the two teams. I think it's going to be a bit more business as usual this time round, but I don't think Obey got that memo. Keeping the pressure on Mike. Nice Earthbreaker though to return the poke back. And Inbound duking out the bowlers. Wowy still trading away with PandaCat on this left-hand side. No sign of junglers yet. Action-packed early game, just no deaths.
And that's what you expect to see from Hercules, especially when piloted by Mike. This early aggression is going to continue to happen. Wowy does have the ability to dash out if he does get pulled himself, but the same can't be said of Inbound. And we've already seen the damage output from PandaCat with these branching bolas. Yeah. He's already swinging for about 80 per auto. That's a huge amount of kill potential in that lane.
Well, also the fact with the Wlfy there too, just keep an eye on the player damage on the characters because they've got a Discordia in the mid lane too. And Discordia just increases the amount of damage you do anyway. So right now, yeah, as you see that player damage for PandaCat, he's top of the shop. He's going to be swinging even harder, not just because of the bowler changes, but because he's got a Discordia on his team too.
The Discordia passive does give additional power to whoever does the most damage on your team. Right now, PandaCat is the beneficiary. I would like to keep my eyes on this middle lane. Mercury's going to be looking to gank out this Merlin the second he turns to level 5, which is right about now. If Wlfy gets forced out, gets his beads burned, there's plenty of damage potential from the both of them. Discordia can cripple out the dash. Mercury's going to be able to burn out the beads. There's a lot that they can work with here, but Weaken, again on this Hunbots, is going to be looking to counter-engage every single time. Just not quite level 5 just yet.
No, he's looking for those oracles on the left-hand side that are spawning relatively soon. Nothing really up in the jungle to do because Rival's starting to mount some pressure towards this middle area a little bit more now. Nothing really up in the jungle for them to take, but they are placing deep wards left and right. And Doug doing a very good job of catching both those there. Just to show that Obey are basically being pinched back into their own half of the map now, whether they realize it or not. Because Rival know exactly where they're going to be coming from, wherever the camps are up, wherever the rotation's coming from left or right. Wowy, meanwhile, is going to be very careful on this. Is that gank in mid lane from Sam? A little bit of lackluster there, and Wlfy makes sure he's punished with at least half his health bar this time round. I know we're not spoken really yet, Myth, though, about the solo lane, but how do you feel about this Osiris pick? You were saying in game one you wanted to see Ducky on something a bit more aggressive. Well, that's what Osiris brings, right?
It is certainly what Osiris brings, and he's already having a better go of it this match. We see he's trading evenly, but they did give up Camazotz again, Obey to Rival. Now, fineokay is going to have additional sustain, he's going to have survivability, CC immunity to the ultimate, so Ducky's not going to have quite as easy a time as he would have against a more standard warrior. He's going to have to really burn through all of these escape tools that fineokay has. Likely, the only kill potential there is if Weaken looks for a gank, and he is doing it. He's hovering around that side of the map. If they are able to deal enough damage to fineokay to force out the ultimate, Ducky that is, and then have Weaken rotate in, that's a lot of kill potential there as well. But losing your Fear No Evil just to shut down a soul laner at this point in the game might be a little bit risky, especially considering how much pressure Rival has in that long side. If we see Weaken commit too many resources on the short side of the map, that's a free Gold Fury.
Definitely interesting to see some of the picks that Rival have gone with this set, though. I mean, game one, we saw a bit of Sun Wukong here, and then the AMC as well for PandaCat. Game two, PandaCat on the Wlfy, and Sam for Soccer. The first time this season, he's picked up this Mercury. It looks like they're definitely like opening their god pools up a little bit, testing the waters, so to speak, and that makes a lot of sense to me. Twig in mid lane though, didn't see that hammer coming, so it was a little bit too late. But he did manage to dash away from the oncoming damage from Wlfy. Great driving strike from Mike though. Will force the ultimate out, Boulder off the top, and Inbound will die to CaptainTwig. The last shot comes through. Great fineokay, but a better sonic boom. Weekend can't find the kill, and now he's running for his life. Mike gonna blink on in, can't find the Earthbreaker though, if anything. Kind of peeled away some of that damage that Sam might have been able to find at the tail end. Ducky rotating in, Mike under pressure and low, but it doesn't look like the Osiris ultimate is going to do enough to bring down Mike just yet. The Frostbolt damage might, but the driving strike back up, and now Ducky under the tower eats a ton of damage himself. Wlfy hunting for blood too, but the minions don't get the aggro. Wlfy had it, had to drop it away. Rival, escape, all still alive.
Rival really did make it out by the skin of their teeth there. That sonic boom completely changes the dynamic of that fight. Now fineokay in a little bit of trouble. He's getting slowed out, but he still has the bat out of hell.
Yeah, still got the battle of hell. Surprised they don't want to keep pressuring Hero Bay. Instead, they went back to farming again. PandaCat, meanwhile, going to keep the pressure going. Can't find the last bowler. Just enough time to get that airstrike off his Wowy. And the minion wave goes into tower. Funny enough, Panda immediately recalls there. I think he could have got some tower pressure if he wanted, but I guess he wanted to take a quick trip back to base and continue working on that itemization a little bit more. Didn't have enough for full boots, though, so a bit surprised by that. I feel like Panda could have stuck there a little bit longer. Maybe he was a little bit concerned about a rotation.
He knew that the red buff was spawning, so the entirety of Obey is going to just follow suit, move into the red side of the jungle. So backing out there, he knows he's not going to get too much. Yeah, he could have dropped the tower to maybe around half health, but that's not really the priority right now. Instead, he's going to be in range to defend his lane, defend his own red buff.
Obey invading for half a second. They look to the red buff, change their mind and try to walk away. Hammer out from Inbound, but there the pressure onto Twig, who does a good job avoiding that fineokay. Apple out, does hit Wlfy of all people. That's not good for Wlfy. His sonic boom comes through from Sam. Didn't manage to find hold of Wlfy that he was after, but instead he got hold of Weekend, and the boulder doesn't do enough. The double tap wasn't there. Earthbreaker off the mark. Great sidestep from Wlfy. Twig still giving chase though, and that's the end of Wlfy. 3 kills to 1 for Rival.
And let's look back at PandaCat, exactly where he's been the entire game on the tower line, but Wowy dashes in.
Yeah, but Inbound kind of hesitated there for a second, and I don't think the communication was really there between the two. I'm not sure what Inbound stopped for in the jungle. That was very weird to me. I'm not sure if like he was de-warding. No, there's no Oracle. There was no like sentry ward for him. I'm not sure why he stopped there. If he would have rotated in, I think that's what Jingwei expected. They could have picked up that kill on PandaCat, a drop situation. I just wish I was, a fly on the wall in comms there, just to listen in and see what went down.
Maybe it was just a bit of an indecision from the side of Obey. The beads were still available for PandaCat. He could have used that to get out of duress, but burning beads is a huge play in of itself, so I would have liked to see Inbound play a little bit more aggressive there, which is uncharacteristic of him. He is one of the most aggressive supports in the league, instead showing a little bit too much discipline for once, and loses out on what could have been a very easy relic burn.
Well, he will steal away at least one of those own harpies on his own side, but Weekend and Ducky getting aggressive on the right. Twig is around, still has his beads available, remember, even after that fineokay in the mid lane. Did a good job of avoiding. Wlfy rotating here too. Over comes PolarBearMike now to even the odds a little bit, as in the mid lane, Inbound's keeping Twig in check to make sure he can't make that rotation. The goal, as you just saw, though, is still even for the most part in this game between the two, even though Obey are down at the moment in terms of kills. Again, they're holding the road in the early game.
Yeah, about less than 100 gold difference between the teams. It's really the XP that's the only thing differentiating these squads. And at the early game phase, XP is the most important tool. Your Mercury on Team Rival, 2 levels up over Weekend on this Hun bots. That's pretty indicative of how this game shouldn't go. You really don't want your enemy Mercury pulling ahead in the early, especially considering he does really flourish in the mid to late game. Was he can get that crit online, was he can get some of these items online like Stow Cutting Sword or something like that. He's really shifted his focus towards that late, but instead he's been getting involved constantly in these mid fights and these jungle fights, and he's still benefiting greatly 2 levels up.
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot of junglers hoping for a chance at this spot for Obey here, watching on to see, well, what teammates they could end up with, starting off potentially next week if Weekend does indeed leave. And that's going to be the biggest talking point of, well, who gets that spot? But for now, Obey are doing a pretty good job. Sonic boom out from Sam for Soccer. He was just in the dual lane looking for a gank there, didn't find one instead. Switches over to the solo side and gets the pick on Ducky. fineokay, credit with a kill. Left-hand side, however, Obey do answer back quickly. It's not a kill, however. It is an invade of the purple buff, and now an attempt at the Gold Fury. They saw Mike facing, and this is a good call from Obey.
Team Rival spotted out, they know what's going on, and instead they start pinging the Pyromancer themselves. They could very easily steal it away, but that's a slight win in favor of Obey. Now they have the gold lead as well. XP still going in the favor of Team Rival, only continuing to grow. It's going to go either way, but Obey is on a slight timer. Team Rival has a fantastic late game comp. They've got the magic damage out of Discordia. They've got 2 late game carries out of X-Ball and Mercury. There's a lot that Team Rival are going to continue to grow in strength. Where if you look on Obey's side, they still have some similar strengths, but Ducky on Osiris is going to continue to fall off because he's not going to be able to trade out with Fine or Sam in the late. Wlfy is going to have a very hard time self-peeling because he doesn't really have a traditional support. He's got this Fafnir who's going to be looking to facilitate more damage from Wowy. Wowy's playing a very good god in the late game if he does elect to go crit, but there's so many tanky frontliners on the side of Rival that you might have to worry about Spectral coming out.
Sam's got a bit of a love affair with Ducky now as Ducky still tries to box away, but got to be careful again. No ultimate use this time because fineokay and Sam don't have them available just yet, but Ducky holds his own and just walks back under the tower. I think something can be said, Myth, for like the lack of pressure on Obey, right? Like they know they're going to be switching up their jungler anyway. They're expected to lose. They are full-on underdogs in this series, and because that pressure has kind of been relieved here, they're kind of hanging in and playing a little bit better than we've seen. Because of that, is that just a boon in their favor? It feels like one.
You always want to be either over or underestimated in all facets of life. Obey certainly going to be underestimated at this point. So they are the underdogs. No one really expects anything from them. There's no pressure on Obey, but the same can't be said of Rival. They're being hailed as the best team in the league by a lot of the fans. They have this game that should be considered a free set. If they drop something here, it's going to be big sweat.
Ooh. 2 fights at once, and Twig taking a duel with Wlfy. Inbound was there alongside. Meanwhile, left-hand side, you saw the pressure Mike was looking towards Weaken, who was trying to get a gank. And now Wlfy's pathing has got him in an awkward spot. He's caught between a rock, literally, and a hard place. Luckily enough, though, he jukes it out. Can't juke the Sonic Boom, however. Good shot out of Inbound to keep him topped up. And Weaken's there to pick up the kill on Sam. Sam annihilated and off the mark there at the end. A pick up for Obey in the jungle, and that works out very well for them. And just keeping in this game yet again. I think it really is that, you know, like they realize that there's no pressure. I think a lot of the last couple of weeks of Obey is like, guys, we've got to make something happen. We've got to get better. We've got to do well. And now that that pressure's kind of not there for a second, they seem to be a bit more comfortable.
A little bit more lax in their playstyle as well. A little bit more loosey-goosey, if you would. Wlfy gets his beads and Aegis forced out there, so he might be under duress from a continuous Mercury gank. And we've seen from Sam that's exactly where he wants to be. Constantly, he's Sonic booming in the middle lane, so Wlfy's going to be under a lot of duress going forward. Meanwhile, PBM just able to farm up the red buff on his own. Going forward, it's really on this next objective fight. Pyromancer and Gold Fury are dead, but whoever gets the jump on the next one's going to really have the forefront in the entirety of the rest of the match. The gold deficit will change completely. If Rival pick it up, they'll pull a lead from themselves. If Obey pick it up, they're going to be in the driver's seat completely. Right now, they're fighting into a huge XP deficit, and it doesn't matter to them. They're going to get the gold lead themselves.
Really interesting to see Sam's pathing around. He's gone to right lane, he's gone to dual lane, back to the solo lane, back to the dual lane. Not really paying too much attention towards mid, except when a fight breaks out, he rotates in, and that's where he actually just took a last tumble. But walking around quite commonly, like looking for these pressure ganks in the lane. Bit surprised to see it on the Osiris consistently at this stage. He's pretty tanky at this point too.
Sam has been spending so much time ganking that it's given Weaken enough time to just farm up his jungle and close that XP gap. What was 2-3 levels in favor of Sam is now only 1 and possibly even just half of 1. That focus is strange to see from Mercury as well. Usually you expect this guy to just be farming out, waiting for the late game, just biding his time until he gets his own crit online. Instead, this is the most early game focused Mercury play I think I've ever seen.
Sonic Boom being charged in middle lane, looking for Wlfy more than anybody else. Remember, the beads are down, but the blink was beautiful, even though it wasn't needed. It was off the mark anyway. However, Mike punishes Wlfy. Blink, Earthmaker, Driving Strike, Apple keeps him away, and the fight raging on. Sam could be a casualty in trade. We can credit it with a kill there yet again. So a 1-for-1, Wlfy for Sam for Soccer. I'm kind of okay with that if I'm Obey, honestly. Keeping Sam dead means he ain't farming, means he ain't going to get that crit online any earlier.
and now Weekend's going to be able to get his first XP lead of the game. But keep an eye on Twig in every single one of these fights. Obey have not put him under pressure even in the slightest. Twig's been free casting every single time, and Sam's been acting as a pseudo lightning rod for all the aggression.
Yeah.
Now Gold Fury spawning, Rival, the first one on the scene.
I can definitely see what you mean about the pressure onto Twig, because I think they've tried a couple of Fear No Evils on him a couple of times, realised it's not working out, and just kind of given up the goat on that one. Wowy zoned away by PolarBearMike, but into the pick comes Inbound. A little bit too late to really contest, though. Rival get the Fury, and back to farming we go again. Still in a pretty much a farm-off situation here. All tier 1 tower, still standing at the moment. And I'm waiting for the next Pyro attempt to come through. With Rival getting that Fury, generally you see a team try and answer back snap with the Fury, with the Pyro, but it's not been touched just yet. And Sam's getting to that point where he can start to look to solo it a little bit more.
He certainly can. Take a peek at Twig's build as well. Pythagorum's piece already picked up. Spear of Desolation already picked up. That's a scrappy build, but he's foregone any sort of anti-heal. He doesn't really need it. There is no true healer on the side of Obey, short of Fafnir getting the self-heal. But that is just flat pen. That would have been very nice to have. It's a way to counteract some of that lifesteal from Jingwei. Instead, he elects to build some lifesteal himself, get some aura that's going to help out the team, and just deal plenty of damage. He knows he doesn't really have to look for any sort of utility. He doesn't need to look for any defense because he hasn't been on the receiving end of any of the action post 5-minute mark. And that's going to continue going forward as he looks for the book. I can only imagine that's going to be a Soul Reaver.
Yeah, more than likely with this build. But that Pythax piece is something we've seen a little bit more of. I do like it in this build as well, just because he's seen a bit of attention from those Fear No Evils early. So if he does get pinched, he's going to take some damage. And I like the health on that more than anything else, in my opinion. It gives a bit of utility for everyone, sure, a bit of lifesteal to all the carries, which is always useful around him. But I think one of the reasons you see it is because of that health, just to give you a little bit more survivability alongside that lifesteal. Red buff secured, though, by Obey, giving him Wlfy again towards that middle area. The ward's still deep on the middle and right-hand side from Rival. Just look at that arc on that solo lane side, just giving full vision of if Weekend wants to try and pressure that side, or a look towards the Pyromancer even happens. Rival's going to know all about it.
Obey's doing a fantastic job just playing into Rival. We're 18.5 minutes in the game, and the gold deficit is nil. The XP is starting to close up a bit. Now Weekend 2 levels ahead of Sam for Soccer, a sentence you might not have ever heard prior. And they're continually in the aggressive seat. Instead, Rival going to go ahead and pull the next objective. Obey in position to defend, though.
Yeah, straight away, Ducky rotates one way. 3 members of Obey from the middle area, too. Ducky going to take his time, working towards fineokay. Hammer out from Inbound, connects with Mike. No real follow-up available, though. Obey, zone everyone away from the Pyro and start it up themselves. Wowy on the way, now from the dual lane, but already on the scene is PandaCat. Pyromancer reset for a second as the fight begins. Hammer out, Fear No Evil hits 2, but just pushes them away. So huge sonic boom from Sam for Soccer there, actually. But he gets blown up by Wlfy soon after. Twig returns the favour to Wowy, and Obey turn away and start to scatter. The strike is trouble for Inbound. A double kill for CaptainTwig now, as Ducky's run down like a dog by fineokay. Wlfy trying to help him out a little bit. PolarBearMike really wants this kill onto Ducky, looking for the Earthbreaker. Wlfy now been left alone as still the team tanking up onto a tier 2 tower. Stop hitting the tower, Panda. It's still a tier 1 up. You can't kill it. Please.
And keep an eye on the carries health bars for Team Rival. Twig didn't take a single bit of damage. PandaCat didn't take any damage at all. It's all on the front lines. Fine and PPM did a fantastic job of splitting up that fight and just creating space for their carries to play around. Get a 4-man clean sweep, except one falls. Sam for Soccer off the back of the Sonic Boom. Now Fire Giant for Team Rival, Pyromancer soon, and there's plenty of towers still on the map for them to take away. Every single tier 1, 2, Phoenix is available, Gold Fury is spawning soon. Rival can back, spend their gold, and force even more fights. They were forcing them from slightly behind. I think they're going to be very comfortable forcing them with a 3,000 gold lead.
Yeah, it was kind of a bit of a rope-a-dope there for me, for Rival, because they start the Pyro, go, okay, Obey are on the scene, let's back away. And Obey go, all right, we'll start the Pyro. And Rival go, right, we'll counter gank and we'll win the fight and get a Fire Giant off of it. Now Obey are trying to answer back, and they're up against a Fire Giant team in enemy territory. A little bit risky at the moment. A couple of relics were already burnt in that last little engagement between the two. And because of that Fire Giant buff too, it's going to cause problems. You did mention as well, like, Obey went on the front line there in that team fight up against Rival. It's not easy to burn a Hercules and a Camazotz. Camazotz getting out of combat, and Hercules being the bad mountain he is. They're investing a lot, and we'll try to pick onto him. but can they get away after the fact? fineokay in the fray, as is Sam for Soccer, and Wlfy's going to end up going down soon after Weekend could fall. fineokay needs some support, not going to get it. The strike will be enough to secure the kill to make it at least a 2-for-2. PandaCat, though, up against Ducky, not a match that Ducky will enjoy too much with how much Panda's swinging for. The level lead is the discrepancy there. Normally, Osiris can hold his own, but not against a level lead situation like that. Wowy does at least take down Sam for Soccer, however. It's dual lane from Obey alive and the carries from Rival. In the end, Obey kind of work out okay there. I mean, that was Rival with a fire giant, Mifflin. They don't get much off it.
Obey really, truly had no right playing inside of Rival's jungle there. They didn't really have any way to play to win the fight, and instead they turned into an even trade. And it's really off the back of PBM just getting a little bit over-aggressive, walks into 5 members of Obey on his own, says, hey, what up, guys, and immediately gets smacked. Yes, Obey did commit a ton of their resources to him. The second Fear No Evil came down, Obey should have disengaged off the pick. Instead, they continue the fight, win it evenly, burn Fire Giant off of 3 members of Rival. That's clean play from Obey, and it's going to completely neuter this Fire Giant push.
Well, maybe they could get a tier 1 on the left-hand side if they look to group up here, Rival, because their carries at least do still have that Fire Giant buff for another minute and a half. Gold Fury has spawned, and that could be the look that Rival look to take here as a consolation prize off the back of that Fire Giant then. But you're completely right. I think Mike was hanging around a little bit too long. Sure, Obey invested a lot there, but I think what happened after the fact was Rival were like, oh no, we lost Mike. We have to answer that call. And in doing so, they kind of ended up wasting the Fire Giant that could have been still utilized a little bit better for themselves. So Obey hanging on here, 4K down as it stands. But this tier 1 on the left-hand side, you can see CaptainTwig and PandaCat starting to group up now. Bad news is, Obey is on the rotation. 3v3 is developing now.
I like what Rival's doing. They're splitting the push. They have 2 members in short, 3 in long. If they can commit to splitting up Obey even a little bit, they should be able to win these split-up fights very easily, because tit for tat, they're about level leads. They have XP leads every single step of the way, but instead it's Weekend left alone.
And the Fear No Evil forced out. Weekend just trying to survive against 2 on this right-hand side. A difficult task to ask. Teleport coming in from Ducky, though, and Weekend's done a good job of surviving. The tower will stand up too. Wowy with reinforcements comes through, but that exposes the left-hand side. Rival, look right, and then commit left. Obey forced to react to the right-hand side, get punished on the left. 3 members here now, and back in action is Wowy again to try and defend the tier 2 tower. All the while, Sam for Soccer still hunting for this tier 2 on the right-hand side. They're trying to stop Obey from grouping up, it feels like here.
Weekend doesn't have ultimate this time, but it doesn't look like Sam's going to want to commit to the fight just yet. Fire Giant spawning in exactly 1 minute. Team Rival can back up, buy some wards, get the defensive positioning around Fire, and just look for picks in every single corner. Rival's got a huge gold lead, they've got the XP lead, they've got the late game composition. The ball's really in their court. They could continually look to siege, or they could wait for this Fire Giant to respawn, and looks like Fire Giant is the call.
Yeah, I think the 5K lead and the 5K experience is something like you can mention a little bit. Sure, the experience won't matter too much as the game goes on, because it'll start to close down as this one continues. But for now, those level 20s are definitely going to be hurting a little bit more than some of their counterparts. However, the gold, I mean, at 5K, sure, 5K is a lot, Myth, but it's still only 1,000 a player. Like, we're not at a full item stage yet. I am, you know, pulling hairs here to an extent, because I'm trying to give Obey the benefit of the doubt that they can try and get back into this game with how the team fights have gone. But Rival don't look like they want a team fight anymore, at least straight up 5v5. They're kind of just trying to pull Obey around.
And it's all because every time Rival look for the 5-on-5 engage, Weekend's finding these huge Fear No Evils to completely split the fight or find a pick immediately.
Oof.
Now gets ulted. Unfortunate.
That damage, half your health. Oof, just off 1 apple. The ricochets really came through a little bit there from that apple. Fire Giant, though, started by Obey. Rival are watching on, but Rival also have Sam for Soccer split pushing. This is a 4v5, and Obey aren't finding much out of this. Rival, meanwhile, they're finding a tier 2 tower. It did just cost PandaCat his ultimate, though, so both him and CaptainTwig don't have their ults available. Sam gonna base now as Weekend also returns to make sure Phoenix isn't under threat, but Obey pushed out around the Fire Giant, and Rival may look to start this one up.
This is the most smork gameplay I've ever seen. Every time Rival catches eyes on anybody, they immediately get behind Mike, hold the W key, and run them down. Sam's running down lanes, Mike's running down team fights, and it's just working out across the board for them because they do have this slight lead, now 7,000 in their favor, and the defensive positioning around Fire Giant. However, Obey's got plenty of engagement tools.
Inbound trying to get into the pit, but the Fire Giant's already dead. Rival don't get, so Obey don't even get a chance to sniff at it. fineokay, meanwhile, distracting 3 members of Obey with the bat out of hell. Inbound distracting, well, a couple other members, but bad news is he's gonna die. We can force the somersault away. The chase is on in the gap though, and Sam found a cute little angle there with that sonic boom. Sets up a kill for CaptainTwig, who's now on a double, and now it's up to Ducky to try and stay alive. Tier 2 tower under threat as the carries of Rival pinch from the right-hand side. They're all diving in here. The towers are still available, though.
For a moment there, I thought we were going to get a deja vu of last game. It was almost the exact same, except this time, Rival have Fire Giant now 3 dead on the side of Obey for about 20 seconds on the nearest spawn. This should be a free Phoenix. They can immediately move in towards a tier 2. Or if Rival want to get cheeky, they can look for the ends.
Well, they're going to go look for the end. I was about to mention how well CaptainTwig's played this game. 8-0-3 on Discordia. She is in action, and she's doing pretty well in the Pro League. fineokay out from Weaken to focus Mike, but all the while, the Titan on the front, and fineokay is tagging it for a while. Myth, this is going to be the game. Rival are going to take this 2-0.
That's absolutely nuts. They just moved in and Obey wasn't able to stop any of the aggression across the board. There were 3 members strong at the tail end of that fight, and Obey still couldn't stop it at all. The damage was constant on the Titan. I mean, that's rough. That's a heartbreaker right there.
It is, but at the same time, when that fight broke out around the Fire Giant and Sam got a tier 2 tower, I could almost start to feel the writing on the wall there, excuse me, with how that game went on between the two. 2-0 though, Myth, to Rival. Any surprises by that at all? Were you surprised at least by how well Obey played?
I was surprised by Obey's caliber of play for sure, especially considering, as Aggro pointed out, Weaken very likely not scrimming with them in these last couple of weeks as they're trying to find a replacement jungler. That was the best Obey's looked in the recent history at all. They were able to fight out in the mid game. They were taking fights at a deficit and winning them. There was a lot of hope there. The story's no longer is Ducky, is he able to carry? It's this Obey squad starting to pick up some pieces, and they're starting to look like a cohesive picture.
Well, still, though, Obey have one more game to play this week. We'll see how they do on Sunday. Like we said, we believe it's Weekend going to be playing there too. Let's get it over, though, to the desk to break down that 2-0.
Obey look better in that set there, Hindu and Mifflin, but I don't know if we can say they look quite at where we need them to be just yet, but certainly signs of improvement. It's Finch here on the desk, joined by Aggro. And Aggro, this is yet another one that Obey were somewhat in, I would say, for a lot of that game, but they could not quite hold on entirely to try and find any way to actually close this game out with an actual win. What's your take on this game here?
Yeah, I mean, better is certainly true for Obey, but unfortunately the record doesn't say loss, but better loss. You know, it's just
You're right.
an
It does
L.
not say better loss.
Right. It's just an L. But like I said coming into this, expecting Obey, knowing that their most veteran player is about to leave, and their jungler and their leader is about to leave, that's a lot of mental pressure on a team, right? And maybe that burden being lifted of, well, we probably haven't been practicing with them very much. We don't have to have high expectations for ourselves here. Let's just go out and do what we can and play. I think that looseness helped this team quite a bit. And I think there's a lesson to be learned for this team through this set, that no matter who they get to fill their jungle role, let's play like this. Let's play like, we don't have to stress about what's going on too much, because they don't in that moment. So a good job by them. They came out, they did their best. It wasn't enough against the best team in the league. That's okay. We'll live to fight another day, and we'll see how good this Obey Alliance team can get later on down the road.
And it's so funny that I think that you're correct to call it looseness, because I would say that their gameplay tightened up, right? It actually got a lot less loose in terms of gameplay, but maybe it's easier to do that when you're not constantly sort of doubting and stressing yourself. And it's impossible for me to talk over this CaptainTwig highlight reel without mentioning that he put on an excellent performance here in this set. Not just in this last game, but in the set. If you all were wondering, is CaptainTwig here in the mid lane? That's me. I'm mimicking, by the way. That's my voice. Is CaptainTwig ready?
That was good.
The answer is yes.
Good.
He's absolutely ready to start playing here at this point, man. I mean, he is at that level now, I think, where I don't know if there's any more questions about it. It took a while for PandaCat to get here. By a while, I mean maybe a week and a half, but CaptainTwig is at that same point now too, where he's just another mid laner and he's playing absolutely out of his mind.
In such genius play by Rival and Slaney to go, okay, Twig, you have a dash, but it doesn't deal damage. And he goes, so I can't go in with it? And they go, no, you still kind of can. It gives you cooldown, all that kind of stuff, but just save it for when you need it. And he does, and he plays perfectly on it. So well done. Give him the shortest range dash in the game. Very, very smart.
Well, Rival now joins Sanguine up at the top with a 5-1 schedule. Despite the recent drop for Radiance with 2 L's in a row, they're still very up near the top with a 4-2 record. United kind of in that clump with everyone else in that 3-3, 2-4 squad that Obey. Their struggles well documented. No need to sit on them. They are struggling down at the bottom as well. But that's what Season 7 is, man. It is that 5-card pileup you saw behind maybe those top 2 teams. Everyone else incredibly close. So that's only day 1. We still have some really big sets later. Sanguine Radiance, I think, is a particularly huge one to look out for later on, as well as that SSG versus Rival set too.
Yeah, and United PK, I think, is going to be really interesting as well, because PK now tied with Renegades at 6th overall, tied for 6th place, so 6-7. Right now is tied between PK, the defending world champions, and Renegades. So I think that's going to be a huge matchup for them tomorrow up against an United team who's looking to improve pretty rapidly with genetics there. I think that's going to be a really fun match to watch.
I think it is too, Aggro. It has been a great day here so far for the SPL action. And one of the reasons why, not just the SPL, but just kind of being at Hi-Rez has been great, has been one of our employees who we won't be having around here with us much longer, my man Blake. Appreciate you and everything that you've done here for us. We got a quick video for you and then a chance to hear from him as well coming up.
Yeah, that's right. Terry the intern is no longer an intern. He's also not called Terry. I don't even know where that came from, by the way, that name. But at the same time, this is Blake. If you don't know him, it's because he's generally only on camera for the really fun stuff, and you kind of have to be for Hi-Rez. Blake, you're leaving us.
I am, unfortunately. I had told myself I wasn't going to get emotional. I'm holding it back. I tell my wife all the time, just because I rock doesn't mean I made a stone. This is awful. So, I knew it was going to be hard. I was anxious leading up to it, and then I woke up this morning and I was like, I'm good. And then today, like, I've savored every moment. It's been pretty terrible being so great. So everyone here is my family. I started this journey 7 years ago when the creative director Andy pretty much was just like, Todd called us for a video. He wants us to do it, and I want you to be the intern. Will you do it? And I'm sure. And then it just kind of turned into like a crazy meme, and then it gave everything to me. It gave everything to my family. I mean, I owe everything that I have now to Hi-Rez Studios, and I love everyone in production. I love everyone in the company. I appreciate everyone for this opportunity. It means everything to me.
At the same time, though, work comes to an end and new adventures begin, right? So I'm sure we'll get to hear what you're up to next. I will say, though, what was your favorite moments? Did you have any? I don't want to get you too teary-eyed about like the whole thing. What were your best things to look back on?
That's a tough one. First SWC was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I think that's just a lot of people at Hi-Rez, just casters, everything. Like, we've never experienced anything like that. Being backstage for the Titan Cognitive Prime, 7-game stunner, the craziest thing I've ever been a part of in my entire life, and I'm really appreciative for it. So,
well, on behalf of everyone at Hi-Rez, Art Studios, Titan Forge, and obviously Evil Mojo too, thank you so much for all the work you've done over the years. Best of luck with everything. Would you mind closing the show, because I want to go and use the bathroom?
I would love to. I love everyone, SMITE fans, Paladins fans, Realm Royale fans, everything. I love you all. Peach it.